So it is the theme of light, the birth of light. What does the birth of light in your own life mean to you? Is it awareness, clarity, guidance, wisdom, inspiration, spiritual intuition? I want you to think about that because it is our prayer wall Sunday, and when we come up for our prayer wall, I want you to think about what do you need to do to experience more light, which when Gretchen was singing, I realized that I really equate the capital L, God's light, with the capital L, God's love. I equate the two. So what do you need to experience and give birth to more light, more love in your life? And it can be a willingness to let go of something, or it can be a willingness to step into something bigger, to really say, okay, I'm not that little expression of myself. I'm going to step into a bigger expression. So I want you to think about that during our time together this morning before our prayer wall. Now, we all know this, but light is pretty important. I have all these kind of, well, maybe. Oh, is the shopping getting to you? Come on, we got to wake up. You're here. Okay, light is important, right? Yes, because God said in the first thing, the very beginning, God said, and let there be light, and there was light. And it was good. Well, this half of the room knows it's good. You got to work on that part. The light is good always. We may not use the light in the highest way, but the light is always good. And so at this time of winter solstice, when here, as I said, in the northern hemisphere, it's the darkest time of year, we get to really find and focus on the light within us. Because the ancients, when they didn't have the use of light the way we do, they had to really know the seasons, and it became a very important time for them to be able to know and build their faith that the light would return, and to use this time as a time definitely of renewal, to reflect inward and find out what old habits and bad thoughts needed to be released, and what things in them need to be renewed to have a vital new year. And this is a potent time for us because we're stepping in not just to a new year, but a new decade. And this isn't just the winter solstice for us. There was a eclipse of the moon on Christmas Day, a solar eclipse on New Year's Day, and there's some other fantastic thing happening right now, which makes it a very important time, but I can't remember. Could be we're going, the new decade, I guess, I don't know. But it is an important time for all of us to realize what is it we want to let go of. And here's just a thought of this new moon rising up. And what is it we want to fill ourselves up with, that we can become new in this new year, at this new time, with a new light. There is an importance for darkness, because this darkness allows us to really do self-reflection at this time. So I invite you to do that. Now, one of the problems, though, with the darkness is we can start feeling dark and dismal and confused and down. Has anybody had any glimpses of that over the season? Like, how many millions of times does it happen in a day? We go up and down and in and out, and that's okay, because we know the light is always there. The light is always there. It cannot be obliterated. You can't kill the light. We can dim the light. It can be obscured, but we can't get rid of it. It's always there. It's infinite and eternal. And so we need to learn how to use this light and what to do. But too often we take the dark times, whether they be dark inside or out, and we put ourselves in a little box. My boyfriend Rumi calls it a prison. Why do you say in prison when the door is wide open? But you see, the door isn't here. Well, it is here, but it's here. We have to use our thinking. We have to release our negative, limited thinking in order for us to get out of this prison that we create. Now, there is another 13th century Sufi visionary mystic that's not my boyfriend. And he had traveled the Arabian deserts as this, he was kind of a jester, a Sufi jester mystic. And he would add humor to the Sufi tradition because he liked to keep people light-hearted. And so there's a lot of stories from Mullah Nasruddin, children's stories and little books that are written. He doesn't have the big books of poetry like Rumi and Hafez, but it has fun little stories. So I'm just going to tell you a short little story today about letting go of some of the limitations that we use to keep us from really expressing and emanating the light that we are, that Sharon so beautifully talked about this morning. Thank you, my dear. So Nasruddin and his friend were sitting at a little cafe, sipping tea, talking about what they love to talk about, life. And of course, part of life is love. So Nasruddin's friend said to him, Nasruddin, why, after all this time, haven't you gotten married? And Nasruddin took a sip of tea and said, well, you know, I've looked for the perfect woman all my life. And you know, in Cairo, I found this woman that was beautiful and intelligent, but she was unkind. And in Baghdad, I found this generous, interesting woman, but we didn't really have any interests and hobbies in common. And this kept being a repeated pattern, and then it happened. I met the perfect woman. She was brilliant, intelligent, beautiful, and kind, and we had a lot in common. And Nasruddin's friend said, well, why didn't you marry her? And he said, well, sad story of my life. She was looking for the perfect man. How often do we have these expectations up here of what we want when really all change begins within? The change we're looking for is right here. The perfection is waking ourselves up to keep becoming more and more. But don't worry if you've built a little box around yourself. Don't worry. Don't worry if you've got some expectations and judgments and frustrations and unworthiness and doubtfulness and fear and anger and resentment and unforgiveness. Don't worry about it. There is still hope for each and every one of us. There is still hope. You see, because there's part of us that no matter how hard we try to shut out that light of the presence of God, we cannot shut it out. We try and we try because that light is all about love, loving ourselves and others and the world around us. And it's all about oneness and hope and understanding and forgiveness and caring and harmony and peace and all that stuff. So we can't shut ourselves off for it because the door, as I said, isn't here. It's up here. It's the place where Spirit comes through, where the angels sing. We can't shut that door. We can't shut that door. But we need to listen, to learn to listen to the light and the message of growth. Because that light that we have been singing about and hearing about in the miracles is always calling us to leave our lesser self to be our greater self. It's always calling. You know, in the Talmud, a Hebrew book in the Bible, part of the Bible says, every single blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and is whispering, grow, grow. And if every blade of grass has an angel, can you imagine how many angels we have that are saying the same thing? We have to listen, and we have to say thank you for your presence and be grateful, but they are there. Now, in Egyptian times, and I'll show you a picture of the lotus flower. In Egyptian times, in their religion, the lotus flower was a great symbolic messenger of birth and faith and renewal. This is one of the most beautiful flowers, yet it's rooted in mud, and the water is muddy in which it grows. Yet it knows to follow the light. And it follows the light until it pops out of the water and the petals unfold one at a time. Except it doesn't just follow the light. The lotus knows at night it needs time for renewal and reflection and rejuvenation. So it closes and again goes under the water until the light comes again. So it's a message for us to know that the light is always there, to depend on the light. The light is never gone completely, but to take time to reflect and time to remember. So when Sharon had us put our hands on our heart, I want you to do that one more time. And I want you to just reflect inward. I'm going to tell you a little story, but I want you to use this story to reflect in your own life. Within us are those embers, those sparks of light that are always calling to be connected with the greater light, always calling to be connected with the greater light. That's the power and presence of the goodness of God, that power that Ernest Holmes talks about. There is a power greater than I am, a power for good that is greater than I am. And I can use it. We can always be reaching to the light. In American slave lore, it explains that the North Star was the guiding light for the slaves as they sought freedom. They could find the North Star by using the Big Dipper, and the North Star was very bright, and it would guide them to the northern states and to Canada to find their freedom. They needed to be courageous enough to find their North Star within, that true star, which is a value, something that brings you to a greater expression of yourself. They had to find the North Star within before they could find the star without. What is your North Star? What is your true value that keeps you on the path of righteousness, of goodness, of growth, of confidence, of love, of understanding? What is that in you? We shared in our circle on Friday night different ideas and thoughts about what is it in our own hearts that keeps us growing and connected and expanded into the light. My North Star. And I want you, when you find yours, to look at the star on the picture. My North Star is compassion. The slaves in the story, their North Star, I imagine, was freedom. What is your North Star? Because when you find that North Star and write it down and focus on it every day, it's the thing that will keep guiding you back to your faith, to that bridge of love, of understanding, of seeing the bigger picture. It is the thing that keeps us connected to the oneness of life. But the story, my friends, doesn't stop there. You see, the light must be shared. We weren't meant to just ignite the light within. It has to be shared. We need to learn from the light, and we need to share the light. Rumi, from his big red book of poems, says the circle of the moon refuses to sell installments of light. The moon refuses to sell installments of light. It gives all it has, whatever that is at the moment. It gives everything it has. And then Hafez, in his book, The Gift, says, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Never says that. Even after all this time, it never says you owe me. And look what happens to a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. And And that's what you and I are called to do, to find the presence and power of God's love within us, to expand that we become that atmosphere and to light our world. Now, I'm going to call up our practitioners and ministers, and please start in the middle so our line stays here. Call up our practitioners and ministers that are grounded and founded in the light of love, that know they are here to bring the darkness to the light, to know the truth, to see the higher expression for each and every person. And your request today, simple, short, not long, and all our practitioners and ministers' prayers can be short and be powerful, especially in the prayer wall. And your request is, I am willing to let go of something that's blocking you from your light, or I'm willing to step into, to become, to embrace, whatever you want to say. Either one of those. Maybe you're having difficulty and you need more faith. You want to expand faith. Let go of fear. Step into worthiness. Step into love. Whatever it is, come on down. And if you want to stay at your seats and pray, that's fine too. But our beautiful ministers and practitioners are here with the gift of love and faith and truth in their hearts. Please know that every prayer is already answered as it is spoken. And simply release your prayers, your knowing, your requests now into the light of God's infinite love, into that place which only knows to say yes, 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 yes. We see the prayers that we have are the light and love of just God in action, that we are here just opening the light and the way for light to guide us, to be the clarity on our path, the wisdom and the knowing right here and right now. And as we open in greater ways, as we release all that we no longer need, and open in greater ways to accept that love and power of God, we ignite this room on fire, the fire of faith, the fire of joy, the fire of goodness, and most of all, the fire of oneness. Just feeling our hearts and hands connected, that we are the light that ignites not only this room, but ignites this whole planet right here and now. We are part of the good that is awakening the consciousness right now to be a place of connection and love and harmony and goodness. How blessed we are to be together. May I simply know that as you leave today, that all of us leave with our heart opened, our mind expanded, ready to be that atmosphere of light and love that certainly is the change that we are all looking for. Knowing that we give and attract the goodness that we are. How blessed we are, how good it is. We simply say in this moment, thank you, God. And so it is. And thank you all for being a huge part of my holiday experience and the love I hold in my heart. It's very precious and very real and very activating and very vital. I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a blessed rest of your week, and we'll see you Tuesday night for sure. Okay, good. Thank you.